This video lesson is part 2 of parallel and perpendicular lines. And we're going to look very specifically at writing equations of a line that is parallel or perpendicular to the x or y axis and determine whether the slope is 0 or undefined. So let's take a look here at lines that are parallel or perpendicular to the x-axis or the y-axis. So you see here this red line. This would be an equation that is parallel to the x-axis. Okay, this line is then perpendicular to the y-axis. All right, so again, the red line is parallel to the x-axis and it is perpendicular to the y-axis. And then the green line, it is perpendicular to the x-axis, but it is parallel to the y-axis. So that's going to help us determine the equation. Now, the first thing, let's remember what do we call the slope, or what is the slope of a line that is horizontal? Okay, let's remember the mnemonic that we use to help us remember that. Remember HOY, H-O-Y. And then we also had bucks. So HOY, bucks. Let me rewrite that. That's a V. So HOY, bucks. And the reason we use that is because that helps us remember that when you have a horizontal line, such as this red line here, that is a zero slope. All right. So if it is a zero slope, then we know that the equation is going to be y equals something. Well, think about it. Y equals something. You notice that this horizontal line is always located on a point where the y is always 6. It doesn't matter what the x is, the y is always 6. So for this specific equation, or this specific line, y would be equal to 6. And that is the equation of a line that is parallel to the x-axis or perpendicular to the y-axis. All right. And then again, the green line here, that is vertical, that is a vertical line. We call that slope undefined, sometimes UND for short, but it is undefined. All right, let me go ahead and finish writing that out. Undefined. And when it is an undefined slope, you will notice that or when it's a vertical slope or it's a vertical line with an undefined slope, then the x is always the same. So on this one, you go over to 4, and it's always 4. So on this equation, x is equal to something, and in this one, more specifically, x equals 4. All right. So that is the equation of a line that is perpendicular to the x-axis or parallel to the y-axis. All right, so let's use this with a couple of examples. Here's our first one. This says to determine the slope of a line and write the equation of a line that is parallel to the x-axis and goes through the point -3, 6. Okay, if it's parallel to the x-axis, then it is going to be a horizontal line. Okay, so remember, horizontal line, HOY, that means y is going to always equal the same thing. So the horizontal line, notice here that y is 8. In this point, -3, 8. Let's go ahead and locate that point. So -3, 8, we start at 0, so we go -3, and we go up to 8, and we put a point right there. So -3, 8 would be right here. Well, if it's a horizontal line, if it's a line that is parallel to the x-axis, then the line is going to be there at 8 all of the time. So we can just draw that line really quick. And it's right there at 8. And the equation then, remember horizontal line, so we use our mnemonic HOY. Okay, so for this one, y is always equal to 8. So that would be our equation, y equals 8. And then again, our slope, it was a 0 slope. 0 slope. All right. Now this example says to determine the slope of a line and write the equation of a line that is perpendicular to the y-axis and goes through the point 3, -5. All right, so if it's perpendicular to the y-axis and goes through the point 3, 5, well, it's perpendicular, so the y-axis is here. So again, on this one, we're going to end up with a horizontal line, all right? Because if it's going to be perpendicular to the y-axis, then it's got to be the opposite. So instead of a vertical, it's going to be a horizontal line. So even though this is perpendicular, it's going to be an equation similar to the one we just did. It's perpendicular to the y-axis. So the point 3, -5, let's go ahead and locate that first. 3, -5 is right here. And again, it's perpendicular to the y-axis, so we can go ahead and draw that line. Here at -5, and that means the y is always equal to -5. So in this equation, y equals -5. That is the equation. We simply got that from the fact that our y is -5. Our line has to be perpendicular to the y-axis. And then again, the slope of a horizontal line is 0, so we have a 0 slope. All right, so it is possible that you will have an equation that says y equals, or it could still be x equals. Both of our examples were y equals, but that's because we had one line that was parallel to the x-axis and then one that was perpendicular to the y-axis. And that will be that will be the end of part 2 of this lesson about parallel and perpendicular lines. Remember to use Desmos.com to help you, the graphing calculator, and then of course you can take a look at the examples and the videos on the Delta Math assignment.